इतना सा फर्क है कुछ होने में और बहुत कुछ होने में। इतना सा फर्क है एक बार सोच के छोड़ देने में और लग के कर दिखाने में। मान लेने में कि जिंदगी ऐसे ही कटेगी और सुबह 4 बजे उठ के सोचने में ये अभी तो बस शुरुआत है। किसी मैगजीन को हाथ में लेने में और उसी मैगजीन के कवर पेज पे होने में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वीआईपी सीट में और उसकी पिछली सीट में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वो जिसका मैदान ही खुला आसमान है वही कल जमीन पर तो था। पूछोगे तो बताएगा वो पंछी। ये एक दायरे में सिमटने में और पूरी दुनिया को दायरा बनाने में बस इतना सा फर्क है। इतना कितना है? इतना है या इतना है? जो नापेगा वो जाने कि जहां धरती और आसमान मिलते हैं, नानकुर से दूर, अगर मगर शायद से दूर, वहां भी दोनों में फर्क बस इतना सा है। धरती और 7वें आसमान में फर्क बस इतना सा है। ये एक अंतर प्रेरणा है। ये हमारी, आपकी, हम सब की अंतर प्रेरणा है। एक कदम, एक छलांग, एक बाजी, एक गहरी सांस और एक ललकार खुली हवाओं में कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन फिजाओं के लिए, कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन ऊंचाइयों के लिए जो ऊंची तो बहुत है पर नामुमकिन भी नहीं, क्योंकि मुमकिन और नामुमकिन में बस इतना सा फर्क है। धूप छांव में फर्क बस इतना सा है। तो बस चलिए फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया।
Thank you, friends. I welcome you all to today's webinar of growth and expansion. And the series is initiative by Francop India to help companies like yourself to scale. In this webinar, I'm also joined by Mr. Gaurav Maria, who is the chairman of Franchise India Group and Francop. He's an entrepreneur, advisor, and a consultant to more than 1,000 companies, and he's helped them to build a sustainable franchise business for almost more than 3 decades now, in both India as well as overseas international markets, where we also have worked with many international companies to bring them to the Indian continent. So friends, I'll set a perspective on what we are trying to present to you today, and then I'll request Mr. Maria to take on, and I'll also request all of you to please make this session interactive. While we have names and registration that came to us before we started the webinar, but if we get to know a little bit more about you, we can make the session more interactive, maybe what the companies and the business that you do. So friends, Francop is the world's largest and oldest franchise consulting company, the firm with nearly 47 years in the industry now. It's a global firm with the headquarters in America, and the company has worked with the names in the franchise industry across the globe, names like McDonald's, Hilton, KFC, Hershey, under the leadership of Mr. Donald Borin, who pioneered the franchise consulting industry way back in 1976. And Francop is today present in nearly 40 countries across the globe. And Francop came to India about 15 years back, and since then, Franchise India and Francop, worked with nearly more than 10,000 companies, from food, healthcare, retail, wellness, services across the length and breadth of the company. And I would say we also are very humbled, and we take pride in being an important part of the business expansion of many, brands which have today become, the names in their categories or are in fact, category creators. So at the group level, friends, we are a very integrated company which gives solutions to the entire franchise community, from brands who want to expand, from business buyers who want to invest in businesses. So, and Franchise India is a parent company which actually brought Francop to India. And Franchise India is a 25-year-old enterprise, and we are present in about 90 cities in India, and also has overseas operations with a direct team and channel partners. And these are seasoned, partners who come with nearly 20-25 years of, average experience. That's what our distribution has been, 90 odd cities. And we'll talk more about it, friends. And before I talk further, I'll request now Mr. Maria to kindly take it over. And maybe there are a few questions that we would want to maybe start with to make it interactive, and let you maybe answer that in the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screens.
Thank you, Sonia, and welcome, friends, and welcome to this so to say, a webinar for scaling your business. As Sonia said, Franchise India is committed to entrepreneurship. We are committed to helping business owners scale their businesses. And we work with various spectrum of brands across large multinational groups to a lot of domestic corporates to a lot of startups. Actually, Franchise India and Francop is known for working on early stage businesses because they need the most help in terms of scaling their business and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my talk into two parts, and giving a little bit of perspective on franchising, and then we'll get on to what makes you franchise ready. So one, you have to really see, is franchising a strategy which you want to do to scale your business? That we'll talk in a little more detail. And then we'll get into, if you really feel that franchising is your strategy, then how you make yourself franchise ready. And that's what Francop does. Francop historically has worked with companies like McDonald's, Hilton Hotels, KFC. In India, we worked with Lakme, Jio, large corporation, Procter & Gamble. All these are companies which we work with. But we are also equally proud that we work with a lot of startups. And now these companies also are, some of them have become unicorns. They all work with us, companies like Lenskart, Funds and Petals, and likes of them. They were very, very early stage businesses when they came to us. And now they all have become fairly large businesses. So let's get started. As Sonia mentioned, that we would like to make it very interactive. If all of you can just use the Q&A box, there is a Q&A box you can see, and introduce yourself. Introduce your brand, what your brand you're representing, and what makes you come to this webinar. And so it'll be very helpful. And especially if you tell your industry, which industry you're coming from, then we can take some real examples from that industry and share with you. As Sonia mentioned, 11,000 brands. We have enough and more experience available, both globally and in India, between Francop and Franchise India, to share a lot of good examples and also things which have not worked. Because the purpose of a good consulting firm is to actually tell what to do and equally tell what not to do. So we also know where the failures happen and why people were not able to really make sustainable business model. Like yesterday, I was with the fashion company, and they were high, deep discount fashion company. And I gave them example of a company which we worked at a certain time called Coutons. Coutons grew very well, but the model was not sustainable. The stores were not sustainable. Their deep discounting was not sustainable. They went on to focusing on top line revenues, but they never understood how the business model would be sustainable. And that's where the entire company collapsed. I see one message. Pradeep has joined. Welcome, Pradeep. He runs the organic of grocery store. Now, it's again a great example. We've done many organic stores. And I personally have a big belief on the category, but we still have challenges of consumption. We have challenges of people's supply chain. We have the challenges of a complete SKU line. So we have some challenges, but how do you really take those challenges and make still the business future ready? But I have no doubt that this is the future, and India would lead this part because we have a lot of now committed farming on organic. So that's a good sign. And Pradeep, we can also have a lot of case study discussions which we can share with you. So let's get started. For people who don't know franchising, let me explain. Franchising by little meaning means rights of privilege granted. When you have some know-how and some kind of, you have know-how, you have brand, you have some mechanism of running a business, and you lend it to somebody else, and they run and operate under your brand name, it becomes franchise. Right? I'll give you an example where it started. It started with a company called Singer Machine. Singer Machine, which you use sewing machine, we all know. In late 50s, they started using franchise. They used to bring in women entrepreneurs, and they give the machine, and she will go out to homes and do demos and actually sell sewing machine. And this is how sewing machine was sold globally. So this was very clearly a model of distribution where you pass your product to somebody else, and they would go out and represent. And this started what I call the old classic distribution franchise model. which evolved into what KFC did. KFC created a model, which we know what KFC does, and actually started duplicating much before McDonald's. People think that McDonald's did that, but actually KFC did that. And that became a business format franchising. When I say business format franchising, which means not only your product or service is standard, but the way it is sold to the customer also remains consistent. Which means when you go to a McDonald's, you get a McDonald's experience. When you go to a KFC, you get a KFC experience. When you go to an Apple store, you get an Apple store experience. When you go to Indian Oil petrol pump, you get an Indian Oil experience, right? So it becomes very consistent. This is what we call the business format franchising. More and more companies, historically, even in classic distribution franchise business, are coming into business format franchising. I'll give you some examples. Like look at MRF. MRF was a high distribution brand. It was available in multi-brand tire stores, and now they're creating MRF Shoppies. I mean, they've been creating for the last 20 years. Similarly, every single company passes that journey to create their own experience where they are able to deal with their customer and pass their experience. So when you go to a fashion store, you get completely fashion experience. You go to Nike, Puma, Adidas, everybody has their own experience to do that. So that's what I call the modern avatar of franchising, which we call the business format franchising. Now, how big is franchising? Franchising is $4.5 trillion. So if you see GDP of India, we're all talking about Indian GDP growing, but we're still about a $3.4 trillion. Franchising is $4.5 trillion, much larger. If it would have been a country, it would have been bigger economy than India. So it's a very, very large, because anything and everything we consume comes from franchise. Today, franchise touches you almost every day in everything. You know, like I was walking out of my home, I saw some delivery guy coming in. So the deliveries which are done to your homes are actually done through franchising. So we work with almost all logistics and courier and last mile delivery companies. Both last mile logistics and last mile delivery companies all franchising companies. Even like Shadowfax and delivery and a lot of other companies, they use the last person is actually a franchise. Then you go to what you're consuming. The biggest brand in the world people don't know is actually Coca-Cola, which is a franchise. So we sometimes don't realize that when we have a Coke, that is a beverage company, but actually it's a franchise company. They globally franchise their bottling and distribution. So anything and everything you're consuming in education, healthcare, retail, fashion, B2C services, business to business services, any kind of things you're consuming, you likely are interfacing a franchise business. And it works beautifully because brands get growth, and entrepreneurs who want to start a business, they get credible brands to partner with. And that really creates a much larger opportunity. Now, why do people franchise? This is a very, very important question. And you can also answer that question if you think what is your answer. But there are three things why people franchise. One is capital. When you are early stage and you want to grow, how you grow? You can either take equity, which is sometimes very difficult to get, especially for early stage startups. While we talk about a lot of private equity and VC and angel investing ecosystem available, but I know it's not available for everyone. So if you want to really grow your business, say you are a preschool company, just running a successful preschool, and you want to grow that business, you are not going to most likely get at that stage equity. So either you have to take a debt, and debt also is difficult, but also in India, the problem in debt is that the cost of capital is so high that you are not able to sustain that business. And this is a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs do. They go to different forms of taking debt and sometimes take personal loans and run businesses, grow their businesses, and they all collapse because the cost of capital is so high in India that you cannot run on debt. Especially I advise small businesses never take debt. So what happens when you are at that stage, you're successful and you want to grow, you have no capital to grow, or you have organically, if you just from internal accruals want to grow, it'll take a lot of time. So franchising becomes very, very strategic that you can at that stage start doing franchising and grow your business. I'll give you an example, a preschool company called Eurokids. It was a very humble beginning, but they had a model, they had right structure. Today they are 2,000 crore company, runs about 1,000 plus preschools across India, the largest preschool operator in the country. But they started moving on one step and one time. So capital is one reason why most of the people really choose to franchise, because they want to get capital for growing their business. I call the OPM principle, other people money. The second reason why companies franchise is last mile efficiency. when you are running your business in a complex market like India. Look at India, so diverse. Every 10 kilometers, the buying behavior changes, different languages, different buying structures, different cultures. This is many countries in one country. So if you are a Delhi-based company and want to do business in Chennai, unless and until you have somebody who understands Chennai and is committed to the business, it would never work. And also sometimes the argument I have with companies and say, look, if I franchise, my quality would go down versus I have my own team members. And I debate with them and say, if somebody is invested on your business 30 lakh rupees versus somebody who's paid as a job, who is more committed? Obviously, the person who's put more money, right? So that's how franchising becomes very, very attractive for even large companies who don't have a problem on capital, but they want to franchise. The Tatas and Mahindras and Reliance and likes of these companies franchise, not for the reason of capital, but they franchise because they need somebody to run last mile efficiency. Third reason is speed. Today, in the times of high speeds, hyper scale up companies where everybody wants to scale very, very fast. Like we just now got a call from a ed tech company, and they want to do 100 franchisees in just 3 months. Now, this is unrealistic. Companies like Titan, which is a very large group, runs 600 franchisees, but they did in 30 years, right? So it's a long journey companies would do. And now the companies which have come to us come with targets which are very, very high. And if you want to do that, franchising can only be the option to do that. It's not about capital. It's not about just, I think it's all about getting the right franchises on board. So these are 3 reasons why companies would franchise. Now, the second question really comes in, what is the best time to franchise? When you really decide that you need to franchise? A couple of things. Well, Sonia would run a presentation and she'll talk about a few things which are very important. But I'll tell you a few reasons. A few stages where you decide that you want to be now ready to franchise. One, you feel your business model has enough margins available, which you can share with the franchisee. So you have to understand, you are dealing directly with the customer, and tomorrow if you have a franchise and you take royalties and they also deal with the customer, there should be enough margins available. And that's why some categories were very late to come in franchising, like FMCG, because FMCG has a very, very tight margins and you cannot create a network. So you need to ask yourself, do you have enough margin in your business model that you can share with the franchisee and all entire 3 stakeholders, which mean the consumer find it right, your franchisee finds it profitable, and you also make value out of it. So if that equilibrium is right, then you get ready to franchise. Second, your business model has some innovation, which you don't want to lose to any other person, or you are a category creator. You want to go fast in the market, then also you franchise. Third, you need economy of scale. You need some kind of distribution. Then also you need to franchise. So there are many reasons and many stages. And this also a debate at what stage of business. If your business is proven and you are having a profitable business model, you're ready to franchise. You might be very early stage, maybe you're 6 months, but you're profitable, you've cracked it, you know how to do that. And also ask yourself, what is the total addressable market? What is the total addressable market you have around you on your business? If it's large enough, then why are you waiting for? Why you not get into franchise? Another thing which is also often asked, that what can go wrong when you franchise, right? Now, this is a really important point, because you build the brand and you want to really make the brand sustainable. So to me, selection of a franchisee is 60% of how your business would run and operate. So don't rush into selecting anybody. You need to see that your values are aligned with your franchisee, and then only you partner with them. And we call the 4 fits. And Franchise India and Francorp designed that for you, who's the right profile for you. But there are 4 fits which you need to see. One is strategic fit, second is financial fit, third is operational fit, and fourth is a marketing fit. These 4 fits have to be seen very closely in every prospect which comes to you, which wants to take a franchise. Now, finally, I'll take this part and then I'll pass it on to Sonia. What makes you franchise ready? Now, while Sonia would run a full presentation, and there are blocks in that presentation which would clearly define what all you need to do. And I will encourage you also to make notes and also reach out to us if you want us to send you this presentation. So we'll be happy to send you a detailed presentation on how you make yourself franchise ready. But I'll give you one principle which over the time we have developed. Last 25 years, consulted many companies, and I have this principle called triple M theory. So when you're getting into franchise, you need to look at these 3M, and we make clients ready for this. The first M is, how do we make your business model measurable? Everything you do has to be measured. If it can be measured, it can be duplicated and it can be controlled. So first, make your business model measurable. Second, very important thing is, when we want to scale and we're selling our franchise, you have to ask yourself that why somebody would invest with you outside 9,000 brands in this country selling franchise, right? So it's a very competitive market. There are 9,000 brands which are multinational, national companies, different brands, different success stories. They're all out to get that same investor. The second M, which is more critical in franchise India, is actually known for it, is to make you marketable. That investors like you. They like your story. They like the whole vision you have and mission you have and why they should invest with you. That's the second M. The third M, which is the most critical M, is making your business manageable, which means that you are not only just able to create your franchise, but you are able to efficiently manage that franchise, which means that you need operating structures, training structures, all that has to be developed. So friends, this is a 3M theory, which we at FrankCorp and Franchise India prepares you. Now I'll pass it on to Sonia. She will run through a presentation, and please reach out if you need that presentation. And also, Sonia and I am fixing one-on-one discussions in the first week of 2023, which are no obligation. It's like a discovery day where we discuss out, understand your business model, see where you stand. And if you want to set that appointment, please reach out to our FrankCorp team and we will set it up. It'll be a 45-minute one-to-one discussion with you to understand your business well and also put some recommendations how we can franchise your business. So over to you, Sonia, for taking it ahead.
And friends, we'll also put our number in the chat box along with the email ID. Any information or appointment that you want to block, perhaps you can do that. And please, like I mentioned, friends, make it interactive. Put your questions in the Q&A block because I see a lot of you have joined the webinar, but not everybody has put in their company details. So if you're able to put that across, it becomes easy for us to maybe understand the relevance of the audience that we are communicating with. Okay, so friends, I'll talk about the opportunity, and so we've talked about scale, and I think all that we have discussed sounds great, scalability, expansion. But it is very important to know that this is extremely responsible way of expansion as you are raising capital on the business, and on the pretext that your business model is tried, it is tested, it is successful, and has standardization of systems and processes. Now, only on this promise and trust, people invest in you and your brand. So it is equity-free, interest-free capital raise. We were talking about the readiness a company needs in order to expand. So while it might seem very simple, also in terms of, every company looks like to have a similar model, fee, royalty structure, while all that is very, very subjective to the business case, I would say the industry that you are in, the category, and equally important is also the stage of your business. Because not every company, every industry would be at same stage, and the expansion strategy that you would have depending on the stage of your business is something which is very, very different to maybe a similar brand in the same industry. Also is important the market that you want to enter, the competition that is there, maybe both at the regional level or at the national level. So all that is something that our teams at Franchise India and FrankCorp take into consideration when we work with companies to make their business model right. So when we determine even a simple thing like an initial franchise fee, we evaluate a lot of things, which means the sophistication, uniqueness of the system, the brand equity which that particular company enjoys. Second, which is a potential return on the investment which the business can bring, the profitability of that particular business. And equally important is also to understand maybe a company's brands, or I would say franchisors, a cost and expense associated with the acquisition and grant of that franchise. So all that is something which is very, very subjective and requires a lot of working around it. So at FrankCorp, there are 4 guiding principles of consulting process, which our team of consultants have been following, for the last almost 4.5 decades in all global international markets and in India. And these are four important things which you can also make a note, which is opportunity assessment, how big the opportunity is, which can be different for each brand, so to say, which means that how big the opportunity is and what is the pie, I can have in the overall opportunity. Second is the value proposition that we offer to maybe the stakeholders, which includes maybe the end consumer and also your franchise partner. Third is the capability development, which means, what kind of capability would you need in order to franchise? And lastly is the rollout plan. How do we create a rollout? Should it be a cluster-led approach? Should that be based on the cities, the bandwidth of the company? So all that is something that our FranCop team, works intensively with every company. Now, starting with opportunity assessment, this actually helps to assess and identify the market that exists for that particular business. Now, to understand what the opportunity is, to define the right approach to capture that opportunity and define the target customer, for that business category. Second is value proposition. Now, value proposition is where we identify and propose a unique selling proposition that a company would offer, right, to the stakeholders, like I mentioned. Now, a business model, overall is a framework for how a company will create value. That's very, very important. It is not a cookie cutter approach. So it answers, a fundamental question about, first and foremost, the problem that you're going to solve, right? Why will anybody, want to partner with you? So what is the problem that you're solving? Second, how do you propose to solve that problem? And third is, the growth opportunity which you have in the given market. Now, as far as a business model is concerned, which, is, I would say, the most important part before we even, go and start marketing or presenting our business to any investor. A business model is how much, value creation can your business do and how you are distributing this value amongst the stakeholders of your business. So there are two things to know and work on. Now, one is business model. So when I say business model basically refers to the logic of the firm, the way it operates and how it operates, and it creates value for the stakeholders. And the second is the strategy. Now, these are two different things, So business model is the logic why a company exists in the very first place. Now, a strategy refers to the choice of business model through which one brand can compete in the marketplace with the other, with the competition, right? And this can be both, I would say, apple to apple and maybe an apple to orange comparison. So hence, no two companies, brands, even in the same category, can have the same strategy and business model. And this is the reason why there are some great success stories and others don't even sustain to perform, right? The third is capability development. Capability development means, resources that you need in the system, departmentalization. So usually companies relatively, have a very flat structure. We worked with many startups, including a lot of unicorns today. And I even see these unicorns because they're all D2C companies or tech-based companies, which relatively would not have a very big, I would say, a resource structure. But we've seen a lot of companies have a very flat structure, which existing teams, are handling or various multiple tasks, but a franchise need a complete support with respect to their two support which are needed. One is obviously the initial support, which includes your site selection, visits, approval, store commissioning. And the second is the ongoing operations support, which is the complete operations support, which is given to a franchise partner once he has onboarded, right? So these are two important teams that you need to have. And they're further departmentalization, what resources that you need and what stage of your growth you need those resources. So that is something that we also work with our companies. And it is also recommended, to maintain a dedicated vertical to coordinate and provide maybe a complete hand-holding to a franchisor. So broadly, if I have to talk about teams, this will be a franchise development team, wherein you have a team who will work with maybe the franchise partners to explain them the business model, go and meet with them, qualify them. Second is your project team who will work with the franchise partner once he's onboarded. And third is the operations team, which will also work ongoing with the team. And lastly is the support team, which I mentioned, that works with the franchise partner once he has been onboarded for the entire period of contract. Now, lastly is, the rollout plan. Now, this rollout plan is based on a couple of things, which includes the bandwidth of the company to operate within diverse markets. So it might look like I have a great opportunity and there's a big demand in the market, but am I currently ready? Do I have enough bandwidth backwards to be able to operate, support in various markets? Second is also rollout is based on the potential of business in given markets, right? So do I have an audience in these markets and maybe the quantum of that audience which is available in the market? So which further can be classified as a cluster-led approach, where we create big clusters and in markets and gain and maybe a high market share in these markets. And second could be a and deeper deeper penetration. And second could be new markets, where I already have presence in certain markets, but there are many other markets which have a great potential, but I currently have no existence in these markets. So based on maybe the fundamental dynamics of the business and the industry, our team works with you to create all that. Now we have the questions, which I think Gaurav did answer. Is this franchising right for me? Is it the right time? And maybe, is my business franchisable? What I need to make or do to make it franchise ready. As investors today will invest only in companies and businesses which have good fundamentals. And there's a complete science of business model. It is not just a logo or an Excel sheet which can be copied from a competition and maybe, we create a very fancy creative which is shared to our prospective, business buyers. So there's a lot of work which is done behind. So what I'll do quickly is also, friends, I'll put maybe a small presentation, and these are very crisp, small slides, which I would maybe present to you. And if anybody needs that, you can also let me know. And part of that also covers what I would say, Gaurav already covered in his note. So, we started with, why franchise and a lot of things which I've talked and Gaurav also talked about, we have kind of, captured. Maybe you can take a picture of these slides also. The first and foremost, this is a fundamental question which I come across every company, and this might be true even for companies which are existing in the market for many, many years, who are already running many, many company stores. And even some of the blue chip companies we work with, Tata's, they've never franchised their Chroma stores. But 2 years back, we approached them and they started doing a franchise on company operated store. So these are some fundamental questions, where we felt these were the answers, basic, answers, which makes you even qualify yourself. Is this right for you? So while we think, and we all maintain being a franchise company, we have brought in more than 11,000 companies in the last so many years of our existence in the industry. But franchising, we also feel, is not for everyone because, when we meet with a lot of companies, and, Gaurav meets almost about 10, 15 new companies every day. In 1 month, he ends up meeting almost 200 companies. And there are many people we, in fact, go back and tell them this is not the right time for you, or you still need to work to get where you need to, right? So, so these are, 6 odd things which are important, and you can even test that at your end, at what stage you are. So when your product or service has a greater demand in the market, which is currently not serviced by a brand. So there's a bigger demand, but there's no competition, or the competition is not as big, and you have a fair chance to take a bigger market share. So that's an opportunity for maybe a company like you. Second is your immediate competition has taken a lead and you have a better or an equal product. A lot of times, I meet a lot of companies also where there is a great product and maybe their immediate competition is doing much better while the product is not that great, or maybe the solution which they're offering is not that great. So if you have something like that, that's maybe a tick mark for you. Third, you think you have a product or a model which can clearly see a big growth or a hyper, local growth. But there is dearth of capital. You have everything what it takes to scale, except for the lack of capital. That's where an investor or a franchise partner comes in who puts the investment in the business. Fourth is operationally, your business demands a deeper participation, which wherein you bring in a good operator. And a good operator is a franchise owner himself, and he would work in that outlet to bring unit economics. So he would work with the teams, and a lot of companies today, suffer from unit economics. And there are a lot of companies who run even company-owned stores today. They have a big issue of, bringing unit economics and sustainability store to store level. And that was one reason many companies, even, I would say a lot of, well-capitalized companies, they started franchising. Bata started doing that many, many years back. They made all the investment in the stores, but they brought in a owner who paid in some kind of, a security deposit to run and operate these outlets. So the efficiencies can be maintained, and especially a lot of shrinkage, attrition in business, training of employees, day-to-day working with them is something which a manager at the outlet is not able to do, versus the owner sitting the outlet would have a better control. Right. So operationally, your business demands a deeper participation, which otherwise you would not be able to do. That means that good for you to get in. You have an innovative or a first mover advantage, which you don't want to lose. And like, Gaurav mentioned, there's always a timing of an opportunity. Sometimes we lose that timing and we lose the opportunity itself. So if you think you have an opportunity, you have a business or a product or a service where you can have a first mover advantage, it can be a good start. And then lastly is your product or service needs distribution and economies of scale. You have a product which requires a bigger distribution. Franchising comes as a rescue, and also economies of scale. Sometimes your production is high, but you don't have many geographies where your product is being distributed. So your cost of sometimes operation becomes extremely high. So it brings in economies of scale. So these are 18 points, and we did make a mention of that in our conversation. So these are 18-point checklist to check if you are ready to franchise. So we recommend that you take a test, and these are 6 odd baskets that we have divided these 18 points in, starting with the brand preference and engagement, which we have put at the very first. And here we talk about, I would say, the credibility of, I would say, the people, the business model, any good news in the PR, print about the business, any kind of recognitions or awards on the business overall, which the company has got. That could be, that we have clubbed as one area. Second is the people, the team, the management, the leadership behind, which includes obviously the founding team, very, very important. And also the key management team, which is part of the business, their experience, it could be in that industry or otherwise. And also how the organization overall is designed. So do they have enough teams at the right places? And the way the entire architecture of that organization is designed makes it very impressive for an investor to consider. Third is, if you have a proven business, you have proven systems, there are processes which can easily be replicated. This is extremely important. I end up meeting a lot of companies who come and say, I have something on the paper, and I have something in my mind. There's nothing on paper. I don't have a successful model. Neither, I've run anything myself. I remember there was a company from Chennai, and they wanted to start a preschool. And I spoke to the gentleman. He said, I want to do that because I've had been working with preschools for the last 25 years, and all the big names in the country he mentioned. I said, and where do you run yours? He said, I don't need to run any of my school because I have worked with these companies. I know how it works out. So I said, if you do not want to invest in the business yourself, and he was simply working out of home and trying to, raise some money from the people in the market. I said, nobody else would, want to invest in your business. So proven business model is very, very important. Systems and processes equally play a very, very important role. Here, one thing I want to mention today, a lot of D2C companies are coming in the market, even companies which are unicorns today. We read about them. They all started as direct to consumer companies. They raised money even before, I would say, these companies now have started coming offline with their physical stores. And we work with many of them, companies like Brillare, that's a personal care company like the Man Company, Beardo, they were all, D2C companies. But when they launched their, a physical store in the market, they had a very different approach. They wanted to de-risk their, partners. And we worked with them to create a model which we felt would be, great, opportunity and a, great value which they can offer to their partners. So proven business model, which means a prototype should ideally exist so that people can come, see, take a tour. You need to have all the SOPs, manuals, because a franchisee is supposed to be trained by the company on everything which goes in the outlet. And your SOP manual is also mentioned in the agreement that you sign with the franchisee, right? So it is very important you have that all documented and a franchisee is trained on that. Third is you need to have very strong relationship with the vendors, which are your supply partners. That's very, very important. That helps you build a lot of standardization also in the business. Then we have competition and marketing or market trends, so to say, which means what the competition looks like. If you are in a specific category, are there many other players already in that category? Or there is a gap in that category, we need to figure that out. And that's what my consulting team also works. We do a complete competition assessment. Where is the industry trend? And we also do a rating from 0 to 10. When we see the industry and see your business, where do you stand vis-a-vis the industry? And equally important, is the future demand forecast. And today, if I have to, say one thing, people don't invest. This is not a short-term investment. When people invest in businesses, they're looking for a long-term investment. And the minimum horizon any franchisee would look at it is at least a minimum of 5 odd years. So we need to ensure that the business is franchise ready, not only franchise ready, but also future fit. It is future ready. So financial performance and margins, which is ROI, past performance of the business. I think Gaurav did talk about her margins. Affordability for a franchisee. Sometimes I meet a lot of companies who say, oh, because we want to enter the market and we want to put something which is very, very exorbitant. And they sometimes either, outprice themselves, which make them a little irrelevant in the market. So we have to figure out what is the right, fee that we need to maybe give to a partner. And equally on the margins, and there is, a lot of working that is required, where we understand what margins you as a maybe brand owner, business owner can give, and what are the margins which are existing in the industry. So a lot of, I would say, manufacturers today we work with are able to give maybe a far higher margins than companies who are just, buying product from third parties. So capitalization, which is, how do I capitalize the business, and do we have enough capital to even support your franchise partners? I've met many brands who have they raise money and we have brought their partners on board, but they lack even the basic capital to even support their franchise partners, right? So it's very important, while, franchise takes care of raising capital, and, you're able to do that through a franchise partner. But every franchisor also carries a big responsibility of supporting the company. As a company ourselves, apart from what we do from a media company, consulting, we're ourselves, a master franchisee of many brands, many international brands. And I know it is not very easy. Maybe the initial franchise fees that we've taken from franchisees, more than that, we've invested back in making them successful. So all that is something which is very, very important. And lastly is your product and service, which means innovation. Enough research has been done around that product or solution that we are offering, and how my product or solution is different to the competition which is present. What is my offering? How it is different? Is it serving the purpose? What kind of pricing I need to follow? And overall experience, last mile experience to a consumer is my brand offering. So that is something that we need to understand, the chain cycle. All that is something that is important for any prospective company or a brand to get into franchising. Now, these are 4 pillars, friends, that our company FranCorp also works upon, and this is related to innovation and performance. And we have created these, small abbreviations, starting with PASS, which is very important, element. And PASS means predictability, which means do I have a predictability in the business model which can be measured? Sometimes, when I speak to companies, they have very generic information. Oh, I do this, margin itna hoga, itna aa jata hai. But that does not work. Franchisee would never bite into something which he cannot measure, right? So measure would mean I need to know exactly if I have a food cost, kitna percentage mera kisme aata hai, kya mera margins hai product mein. So all that is something that our team works and, creates and shares with you. Accountability, which means I need to even pen down the obligations of all the stakeholders in the business. As you, brand owner, maybe aapka jo franchise partner, usi ki obligations, even your team obligations, care is, all that is something that needs to be defined. Third is standardization, which means that we need to have everything defined, which can help us deliver a very standard experience to the consumer, because whether that's a company outlet or a franchise outlet, a consumer should not be able to, differentiate. So that standardization is very, very important. And fourth is scalability, which means our, scale to all markets, our preparedness to a scale, and what is the turnaround time that we need to scale to whatever locations. Cluster approach hai, ek hi city mein karna hai, region mein karna hai, and at what phases we need to do is something we work under PASS. And then is AIR, which includes these 3 points. Attractiveness, because today there are many companies present in the market. At Franchise India, we launch about more than 30 brands on an average every month, more than 30 companies. So how my brand can be a preferred brand on the investment alternatives which exist maybe in the same industry or other industry. Second is my readiness to present my opportunity to an investor, which is investor readiness. And third is how, as a brand owner, business owner, am I hedging the risk of my investor? So how are we able to demonstrate that I'm able to reduce the risk of the investment? And that is something that we also work with you. And third is, the 3 C's, which means the controls. I need to have overall operations, including maybe the experience of the consumer, and also maybe control and accountability at your team level, and also, from franchisee operations. Second is compliance, which means how do I manage franchisees to be completely compliant on taxation, legal, and other, business compliances. And every company needs to have that and shared and trained, their franchisees be trained on that. And third is consumer connect, which is a last mile, I would say, consumer experience, which has to be extremely consistent across all markets. And then we come to ERR, which is encourage, recognize, and reward programs. So which includes maybe reporting structure. How do we encourage them? Sometimes policing does not work, right? So how do we encourage them to bring them to an optimum level and maybe even sometimes overachieve their numbers and targets. Their franchise teams, your own franchise teams who are working, how do we incentivize them on their maybe day-to-day achievement, a monthly achievement, and annual achievement, and equally maybe I would say, how they're faring over a period of time, maybe annually, so there has to be some kind of structure which has to be built around. So friends, this is what I in fact wanted to cover, and these are 5 core services which Franchise India as an integrated company offers to their partners or companies like you, which includes advisory, which includes everything, documentation from the strategy that we want to take, financial working, your manuals, your legal agreements, marketing, training. All that is something which our team of FranCop takes care of. We also have a separate value-added services which include maybe a PR strategy. We have a PR company which can also work with you to help you with all the activations that are required. Third is lead generation. This is something that a brokerage arm of the company does, where we understand what markets you want to go. I mentioned that we are currently present in about 90 odd cities across India, and we have a team, our direct team and channel partners who work. So our teams are trained depending on the rollout that you have. My teams at Franchise India are trained on your opportunity, your brand. And we generate leads not only from my own platform. We have a very big platform of franchiseindia.com where nearly 18,000 companies are listed. We have million investors who come on this platform to search opportunities. So that becomes one of my platform for lead generation, email blast. We have a lot of physical events. Every month we do about 15 to 20 physical events, small events across India to reach out to these investors or business buyers. So we use social media, we use print, we use digital, we use every platform which can help us to reach a potential business buyer. And then we do the entire management of the lead, which is again dependent on aapka rollout kya hai, uske hisab se lead generation hota hai, filtration hota hai, the quality of the investor, right? So is he capable of investing that money? Does he have enough time to put in the business? So all that is something that, our teams filter these inquiries. And finally, our franchise selection happens. And this is an area where we also require the companies or the brand owners' support, because as a team, we bring and filter the inquiries based on the criteria which is given by you. And then we bring you on a one-to-one calls, meetings. We do discovery days where these prospective business buyers would come and meet with you. So friend, this is what I wanted to share with you. I'll request anybody who has any questions can please reach out to us. I will also share, our hotline number, and I will also share, Gaurav's email ID. It's gm@gauravmaria.com. You can email. This is, I'll put mine also. And I'm putting a hotline number. आप इस पे WhatsApp कर सकते हैं 9717683838. And I'm sure you might be in touch with our FranCop teams. And please let us know if you want to do any one-to-one discussion meetings to help understand maybe your business and maybe your brand better, because this is just a small webinar we have done. I have not yet understood a lot about your business, but I did read some of you talking about your respective businesses. So friends, thank you so much. I've just put the email ID. Maybe I'll type that again for you. It's gm@gauravmaria.com and CSONYA@franchiseindia.in and 9717683838. So you can reach on this number. Great. I think you also shared your website. We would definitely go through the entire information, and I request we have maybe a offline discussion with you. And with this, friends, I'd like to thank you all for being with us.